Frieza, the Emperor of the Universe, approaches planet Namek. He seeks out something known as the Wish Orbs, and these Wish Orbs will allow not only him, but his entire army insane power. And you think that Frieza already has enough power, has enough strength. Shoot, his first form even bears a power level of 500,000. But he wants something more. He wants the Namekian Dragon Balls. Yes, he doesn't know these are what these are called, or these so-called Wish Orbs are called, but Frieza wishes for those Wish Orbs. He hopes that these orbs will grant him infinite power, but more specifically something he's been seeking this entire time, and that is immortality. Frieza wants to be immortal, everlasting, no matter what, no matter who, no matter where. Frieza will be there, because immortality will allow Frieza to live forever and never die, and would even outlast someone like Beerus, the god of destruction who strikes fear into every last mortal that exists, and that includes Frieza. Frieza knows how scary Beerus is, and knows that he is a ticking time bomb, that if he doesn't follow along with what Beerus wants, well then Beerus will erase him. But guess what? Immortality will allow him to prevent that, and immortality will be his ticket to conquer the entire universe and be rid of not only the fear of dying to Beerus or being erased, but also the fear of a rising Super Saiyan. He doesn't know this blonde-haired savior is about to appear, but immortality is what is going to save him from it. And immortality is going to stop this blonde-haired savior from actually saving the universe. Frieza approaches planet Namek, entering the atmosphere as all of his soldiers spread across the entire planet. And yes, he has troubles with one known as Vegeta, and also troubles with a couple Earthlings, or at least that's what he thinks they are. He has a bit of troubles throughout this entire time, but eventually he would come knocking on the door of Nail and Guru. When he would speak to them and eventually killing Nail, he would now know that the Dragon Balls are ready to be active, and that's exactly what's happening in the distance. But in this reality, Frieza himself actually does something different. Frieza would come racing in his final form. Yes, clearing the entirety of the planet would be no job at all for Frieza in his final form, so he clears the entirety of it, arriving before the dragon would even make a single wish, and before the dragon would even utter the rest of his words, Frieza would be there in an absolute blink of an eye. They would all stand there in fear as Frieza would approach, and even Vegeta wouldn't have any snarky thing to say. He can sense the power that Frieza upholds. He can sense the power that Frieza has. Frieza would then force the little green Namekian to state his wish. State the wish to make Frieza immortal. And out of fear, and out of whatever's going on in the head of Little Green, or Dende, well, he decides that he's going to do just that. He decides he's going to give Frieza the wish that he seeks, because he feels as if this world is already doomed, and everybody else is doomed as well. And maybe if he could just inch out survival, maybe he can last a little bit longer. So Dende decides to tell Purunga to give Frieza immortality. And in the Namekian language, nobody would know what he says, but Frieza has a feeling that he knows exactly what just happened. Immortality has just been bestowed upon him. And Frieza would quickly kill Krillin, quickly kill Gohan, and quickly kill Vegeta, leaving them completely and utterly dead. And it seems that planet Namek will be their burial grounds. But eventually, and very soon, Son Goku would show his face. And when he arrives to see his son and also Krillin dead on the ground, he would erupt in a beautiful and angry flare of yellow. A golden warrior has now emerged, and Frieza has awakened him. But this time, Frieza does not fear him. Frieza does not fear this golden warrior. And Son Goku may be that warrior, but like I said, Frieza is no longer afraid. And eventually Goku would realize why that's the case. Because Frieza would end up outlasting him by a mile. He would even stress the immortality to its peak. Goku would even unlock something greater within himself, stretching and destroying his body, activating a Kaioken times 2, equivalently making his power of Super Saiyan 2, or more or less making it the strength of Super Saiyan 2. But even that, destroying his body in the process, wouldn't be enough. He thought maybe raw power would be enough to kill Frieza, and raw power is just not enough to do it. Raw power is the last thing you need. You need a special technique, something else, but not this. Goku would lay there knowing that he failed. Lay there knowing that he has lost. He would look up at Frieza as Frieza would laugh in his signature little laugh, and he would point a death beam at the Saiyan's head, telling him that he truly could have been a fine warrior under him, but it's obvious that he was not going to be persuaded. And it sucks that he has to just go on and disappear and be a useless sack of nothing. Frieza would shoot the death beam through the head of Goku, and the universe's savior or warrior has now been killed. Son Goku has now fallen, and it seems as if everything else begins to fall as well. That would include a future Trunks that would arrive to nobody being there, and that would include someone like Bulma and any others that are alive to either be captured and taken away or killed. It's unfortunate, but that's the truth behind it. Frieza would capture or kill everyone that would disobey, and that would include someone like Bulma, like Dende, and every last Namekian that exists. Now, with that said, Frieza's now immortal, and how else and whatever else would happen throughout this time? Well, in my opinion, it's pretty obvious. Frieza is cocky, is arrogant, and there's a good chance that he would end up still losing his empire. And you may be wondering how. And, well, the main thing I'm thinking of is the one and only Bobidi. Now, Bobidi is a very interesting being, in which he is pure evil, and he controls one of the scariest beings imaginable by the name of Majin Buu. Now, this isn't what's scary. Majin Buu isn't necessarily what's scary in my opinion. Yes, Majin Buu is a freak of nature that would most likely, if absorbing Frieza, would actually be unstoppable and be so unhinged that he'd probably kill everything. But that's beyond the point. That's not really my point in all of this. It's more that Bobidi might have the ability and strength to actually control Frieza. Dabura is someone that is very powerful, on the same level as perfect or super perfect Cell, and that being that strong, it's obvious that he would have the magical capabilities to control someone like Frieza, an immortal being. So when Bobidi would slowly but surely siphon off the power to get Buu awakened, well, let's just say it's a scary thought that when Buu is awakened and Bobidi is temporarily under control, It's a real scary thought to think that Frieza could be under his army quicker than you can possibly imagine. But let's talk about 2 ways this could occur. We know that there is a large time gap in between Bobidi awakening, or more or less awakening Buu. So, do you think Frieza would actually be able to eclipse the power high enough to actually stop the Bobidi mind control being, or more or less becoming, a Majin? In my opinion, I don't think he would, but for argument's sake, let's say he somehow does. How would he be able to do that? Well, it's a long period of time all the way until Buu. We're talking about almost 10 years, or probably around 10 years if I get that right. Now, would he train at all throughout these 10 years? If he does, then he'll be able to eclipse the amount that Bobidi actually more or less needs to kind of control him. And the reason why he would be able to eclipse it is if he just gets in enough battles, or just trains enough warriors, maybe another type of Ginyu force, or maybe he finds kind of a couple Saiyans, or a couple straggler Saiyans, or a couple straggler of a different race, and trains them kind of like he trained Tagoma. If he does that, then he could definitely execute a power beyond what we would even think. And he would have to do this based on 2 things: a fear of Bobidi, or Majin Buu, and a fear of Lord Beerus. Those are the 2 things that he would have to do if he feared them enough. But here's the thing, he's also immortal. So is his fear now gone and away because he's immortal? That's the issue. Would Frieza train even though he's immortal? In my opinion, no, he wouldn't train because he's immortal. We know how cocky, we know how snarky, we know how bad of a person Frieza truly is. So I don't think Frieza would train. But if he did, well, let's just say the power of Bobidi would be an interesting thing, because Bobidi wouldn't be able to control Frieza, and it would come down to Majin Buu somehow absorbing him before Frieza could kill him. Because in my opinion, Frieza wouldn't be insanely strong. He wouldn't be some golden Frieza type level threat. I just don't think that's a thing he would do. He knew what he was getting into when trying to take revenge on Goku. He doesn't hate Beerus or fear Majin Buu the same amount that he feared the Super Saiyan that almost, or basically, killed him on Namek. So at the end of the day, he would not train as hard, and even though it's a 10-year period, he, in my opinion, would not be as strong as his golden Frieza. I just don't think that would be possible. Now, is he strong enough to avoid Bobidi's mind control? I believe so. I don't think that's an even close conversation. But now, is he strong enough to defeat Majin Buu, or a potential Kid Buu, in which that's what Bobidi would ideally want, is a Kid Buu? Now, this is a whole nother question, because we are talking about absorption and strength. We're not just talking about absorption. Bobidi, or Majin Buu, with Bobidi of course, but Majin Buu could absorb someone for power, strength, and so on. So if he absorbs Frieza, we're talking about him absorbing an immortal being. And that's a pretty scary prospect. If he absorbs an immortal being, I don't think it would work the same way as Potara worked, where he was half immortal. I truly believe that it would make Majin Buu more or less purely immortal, just because of how many levels Majin Buu already has in terms of his regenerative abilities. It would just stack on and make him practically immortal, if not immortal entirely. But if he didn't absorb Frieza, well, Frieza would most likely use Bobidi's mind control powers, or his ability to make him stronger, as a way of gaining even more strength and then killing them all, or bringing them under his own wing and actually utilizing them for his army. But you can't trust people like Bobidi, or someone like Deborah, or someone like Majin Buu, because they're just loose cannons. How is he going to control them? There's just no way. So Frieza decides to be off with them, and Frieza would eventually kill them. Now, that is if I believe Frieza would train. If Frieza doesn't train, then you probably get Bobidi with a Majin, or having Bobidi put a Majin symbol on Frieza, and now has an entire army to control. Yeah, Bobidi with Frieza's army, with Frieza under his entire control, and a Frieza that is stronger and completely loyal to Bobidi. A scary prospect if I say so myself, and I'm pretty sure all of you can agree as well. Now, how does this story really end no matter what? Well, either way, if Bobidi does control Frieza, and he hasn't trained at all, and he takes over his entire army, well then, it's game over right there. Everything else that happens after that doesn't necessarily matter, because it's not necessarily Frieza even anymore. It's Bobidi. And Beerus would eventually come about if Supreme Kai doesn't die and stop this whole thing. Now, Supreme Kai does die, then, well, Bobidi runs the entire universe. And then eventually Zeno pops the entire universe. Like a balloon. Goodbye. Now, if Frieza defeats Bobidi, defeats Dabura, defeats Majin Buu, he still has to deal with Beerus. Now, would he be able to get this information extracted from Bobidi, learning of the importance of the Supreme Kai, or maybe the Supreme Kai would show his face and would eventually die? Well, that would be the best scenario for Frieza. Hands down, no bar none, best scenario for Frieza is Supreme Kai showing his face, thinking that Frieza himself is actually helping the universe, and Frieza doesn't help the universe unless it's for his own gain, killing the Supreme Kai and eventually leading Frieza to metrically dominate the entire universe. And it wouldn't even be close. He would dominate the entire time until, like I said, Zeno would pop the universe like an absolute balloon. But that's beyond the point. Now, let's talk about if Beerus was still alive. Now, if Beerus is still alive, Frieza would most likely be far more cocky with the fact that he thinks he could beat Beerus because he's immortal. But we've seen that Beerus is very, very quick to the trigger in terms of, well, dealing with people that he can't deal with, technically. Elder Kai, he couldn't kill him, so he sealed him away. What do you think he would do if Frieza himself, cannot be killed, but also he doesn't have a way of dealing with him necessarily? Well, I think he's going to smack him with a sword and suck him into that sword and lock him away forever. Now, that is how I think that version would 100% go. Now, I know I talked a lot about different versions that could happen, but let me break it down really fast as an overview, okay? So one version is Frieza dominates the entire universe, and kind of has an easy job doing it, but that also involves being stronger than Majin Buu, Bobidi, and Dabura, and also killing Supreme Kai. Of course, Zeno would still pop everything. That is a canon event. Shout out to the Miles Morales Spider-Man, but that is 100% a canon event. Zeno would pop the universe, especially because there's no Goku. Now, another version could be Frieza being controlled by Bobidi, and they take over the entire universe, and Bobidi has an entire army at his disposal. And then Zeno pops the universe, of course, as like I said before. And then the last one would be Beerus locking away Frieza after realizing that Frieza is immortal. Can't destroy an immortal being, so might as well lock him away in a sword for eternity. Now, with that said, what do you think would be the most plausible way of approaching things? What do you think would be the most likely outcome if Frieza got his wish? I would love to know in the comment section below what you think and your ideas. Maybe you have a totally different version that I didn't even come up with myself. And yeah, I would love to see it in the comments. And make sure to leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, like I said. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.